Hey guys, how's it going? I'm just in the boat getting rigged up. I'm trying to go shoot some video tomorrow out at Bugs Island, but I've been seeing a post, and we've all seen this post, many a times. It's always the controversy, spinnerbait or the chatterbait. And some people all, they're, oh, chatterbait. Some people are, no, spinnerbait. I feel they're completely separate. You can compare the two, but really they're different tools for different scenarios. Some people say, oh, if you can get bit on a spinnerbait, you'll catch them on a chatterbait. A chatterbait's going to get you the bigger bite. Some people say, oh, if you can catch them on a chatterbait, you can catch them on a spinnerbait. So I don't believe that to be the case at all. Basically, when I was out at Bugs Island this past weekend with my friends, they were basically hitting topwater really well. There was a shad spawn going on, and of course, the first thing I pick up was the chatterbait. I'm throwing this around, and usually I get bit within the first 10 casts, and it just wasn't happening. My buddy was getting bit on topwater, so I was like, all right, well, let me see what's going on. I picked up a spinnerbait, and instantly, the second I threw the spinnerbait, I got bit. And what I realized was the fact is when the fish are feeding up, the spinnerbait was the key, because I can keep that way up in the water column, but I can fish it slow. Yes, I can keep a chatterbait up in the water column, but at this point, to keep it up in the water column, whether I was throwing a 3/8 or whatever, it was just, the fact was I would have to reel it too fast, and it just wasn't putting off the right vibration for what the bait fish were really doing. That vibration is a lot quicker, a lot jittery, and when I would see the bait fish, they weren't running all over the place, jolting around. They were kind of just, cruising along. I would see them following the bait and everything. They'd follow my lure, and when they're following the lure, they're just cruising along. So with the vibration of these blades on the spinnerbait, being able to keep it high in the water column with a slow presentation, I mean, I was creeping that bait very slow. And with the blade just having that circular wonk, kind of like a fish, just slowly going through the water instead of something that's going all crazy and fast. So that was my reasoning. That's what I believe was the reasoning for being able to get the bites on a spinnerbait compared to the chatterbait. Obviously, also, same thing. That flash from this blade, I mean, the flash from a spinnerbait is completely different from the flash from a chatterbait. On that chatterbait, he's throwing flash out in front of him and in front of his face and out this way. On a spinnerbait, it's throwing it all over. And so it's flashing all over, and you can see it from behind, the side, and everything. So I think that was another thing that allowed the bass to key in on it, as well as the size of the blade. The blade was also the same size as a lot of the shad that were swimming around in there following the bait. But again, I mean, separate tools. Chatterbait, great for, fishing. Everything that basically a spinnerbait is good for. A spinnerbait is I think a spinnerbait is really good for grass too. Grass, lily pads, things that are a little just too thick for a chatterbait's nose and blade to get through cleanly. Sometimes I like ripping it through, but sometimes it's just too much, and when you're ripping it, I don't want to have to rip it so hard that I'm pulling it 6-7 feet through the water just to get, because then I'm out of the strike zone of the fish. With a spinnerbait, I can keep it, once again, I can keep it up in the water column, around brush, around wood, around grass, around lily pads, around anything. I can reel it slowly by while keeping it high in the water column. With a chatterbait, I just can't really seem to get that same thing going. And, I mean, you probably can with a 1/4 ounce chatterbait, but I just feel when I get to those smaller sizes, it's just not exactly what I want. Sometimes I want that bigger profile, that bigger, heavier bait, like that with the bigger blades and everything, and I still want to be able to reel it slow, but keep it up and keep it around that cover. And the main thing is keeping it in that strike zone as long as possible. If I'm reeling like a chatterbait quick and that fish isn't trying to chase it 10-20 feet, and I come by his face, and that's why sometimes you got to make multiple casts, because first time you get You bring it by him, he doesn't know it, and it surprises him. He nips at it, and you miss him, and you're like, man, how'd he miss that? And that's why you would have to make multiple casts. But like I said, with that shad spawn going on and everything, the spinnerbait was definitely the deal. I just throw a half-ounce War Eagle. That's what I was throwing all day, double willow, and that was the ticket for Bugs Island this past weekend. But again, that is my take personally on the chatterbait and the spinnerbait. Separate tools, different scenarios. You can fish them in a lot of the same areas, but there's subtle differences where when you notice them, that's when you know to change up and give the other lure a try, vice versa. So, but thank you guys.